Welcome to another interesting day on planet Earth. And I haven't done a video for a while. And even today, when I started to do the video, I had two disruptions. And it was interesting because my mind then went, oh my gosh, things run in threes. So I'm probably going to get another disruption. Maybe I shouldn't start the video. And then I stopped and thought, isn't that interesting? Where did I pick up that information? Was it something that I knew intuitively inside of me, or have I picked it up from somebody else telling me that? And of course, the obvious thing was, I was listening to other people's information. It's interesting, we had a little workshop with some of Brian's staff yesterday to look at distortions in our field, distortions in our consciousness, and how that influences what turns up in our world, what manifests in our world. And one of the things Brian was talking about was what happens for us, even moving down to a physical illness. It is other people's information that we've taken on and somehow in our consciousness locked in it as our own. And we forget that the outer information impacts us. So, as many of you know, we are creating based on what we see with our eyes, what we perceive in the outer world, and the judgment we make when we actually see that information. And then it affects us on multiple levels and then sits in our consciousness as a distortion, like a program sitting in there. So yesterday we were identifying where in everybody's consciousness they had distortions, and we got very clear of some of the key things that are where we're coming from, like integrity and trust and reconnection. And they all really came back to us. It wasn't that we needed to reconnect with anybody else, but fundamentally, some of the reasons that things turn up in our life is because we have lost our connection to something greater than us, whether it's source or universal prime creator or God or whatever it is for you. We've actually disconnected ourselves from the true aspect of ourselves. And so we lose the trust within ourselves. And then we start up to take on other people's information in the outer world. And probably the best example of that is what's happened in the last 3 years, where, people have been scared into or had a diagnosis, and all of a sudden they're taking it on as their information. So yesterday we had a play in the energy enhancement system of Dr. Sandra Rose Michaels. We have access to one. And so we had the whole place to ourselves for a few hours. And in that field is the quantum field of 0 point. So you're in the space, in the scalar space with photon light. Basically, you're in the space where miracles are created. You're in the space of unconditional love, 0 point. And so we started to play with these structures of our consciousness as if they were like building blocks. And we were playing with a sphere, and we were treating the distortions and also some of the good aspects like integrity and trust. And the game was, does this word actually go into the sphere, and what happens when it goes in the sphere? And what do you notice happens in your body when you put it in the sphere? And or is the word not going in? Is it just sort of pinging on the outside or bouncing around the outside and not really sinking in? And then observing what that is, not making a judgment, just an observation, being discerning instead of judging. And so that was a fun game, and it was really interesting because there was a couple of us that had integrity, and my word for integrity went in, but we all had the same reaction. It hit us directly in the heart. So integrity for everything is important, and we could see how it would play in different aspects of our life. Like I really hate when people are not in integrity with themselves and they're pretending to be something else. And so integrity can be seen in the outer world as well, but it really starts with us and what distortions we have in our consciousness and how it plays out. So over the last 3 to 4 weeks of me not being here in a live or anything, I've been observing in my inner world, but also being an observer of some of the dramas that are playing in the outer world. And I'm not just talking the things that are on the world stage, but I talk, little things that come up that could easily hook you into a distortion and then have you ruminate or pull apart or get really involved emotionally with it. And so I likened it, and I mentioned this in the New Academy classes of eternity, that it's almost like the dark aspects are still on our planet, are looking to see that in your consciousness, whether you still have some cracks or distortion that's still sitting there, that they can trigger a little scenario happening to see if it triggers you, and then they hook in, and then just it gets amplified, and you still feel like you're really hooked into it, and it plays out in a grander scale. Now, I also see that when I am working with people in Time Waver. When I get somebody's Time Waver reports, I can see exactly what's going on in their biosphere, in their around their world. And I can see, and it almost always starts off with psychological level. So it's our perception, it's our judgment, it's our viewing of what happens, and the distortions that are there based on other people's information. Now, luckily, when you go on Time Waver being a quantum computer, looks at what's going on for you and then sorts out from its 13,000 programs what particular remedies you need for correction. So it's sending back in a frequency the corrections back into your biosphere, into your field for 4 weeks. So it's helping to remove some of these distortions. And it's a great tool, and I'm happy to offer that and then give everybody a debrief on it. It's a really great way of getting clear on what's actually going on for you, especially when you haven't got some clarity on it. But I'm going to suggest to you at the moment to have a look and spend that time in your inner world and just observe what's happening in your outer world, what's coming to you from the outer world, what is in your inner world that's not quite in harmony that you are projecting into the outer world, because that will be a key as to where the distortion sits in your consciousness. Now, unlike other different practitioners, we're not pulling things apart and looking at it emotionally and everything. We're playing in the field of, in the information field on the creator level, where we're just noticing the distortions as geometric forms, as a cloudiness. And generally when we play, you will get that physical feedback. So you'll get an idea of where the distortion has been stored in your physical body. And the great work of Dr. Hammer in German New Medicine, where he's able to really map that when you observe something outer world and it triggers you through a shock, it lands in your mind, in your brain somewhere, and then mirrors in your body. So, for instance, a serious diagnosis for health often affects the lungs. So you get this death fright shock, and then you get a weakness in that area. And so we're really being asked at the moment, and especially over the Lionsgate portal, which just finished on the 12th of August, we're really being asked and really being pushed to really get clear with ourselves, step into integrity, reconnect with ourselves. I haven't actually experienced such intensity as I did in the Lionsgate. There were times when I was absolutely exhausted, no motivation, my whole body was aches and pains. And I really had to just give myself permission to step out of any outside activity and just be with what was going on and just walk through it. And it's almost like the 12th of August hit, everything changed. So for humanity, for all you and I, we're going through this massive shift, this massive awakening. We're getting the Schumann resonance, which really triggering our DNA and the awakening of our wisdom codes within our DNA. We're having times when we're remembering, or we have an absolute knowing that comes from the heart. And so these are the times to have a little bit of introspection while there is the drama going on in the outer world. And there is a lot of drama, and there will be quite a lot of drama as lots of things are rolling out and being peeled away. So the more solid you can be within yourself, the more closer that you can be within you, the easier it's going to be able to step through what's about to unfold for you and for the rest of the humans on the planet, and get to a place where you're in peace in your inner world. So that's my message for this week. We're going to workshop a little bit in our New Earth Academy and get clear with some of those things I just discussed, some of those words that create the blocks, and start to notice where that's coming from. So we've got a lot to look forward to in the upcoming class. And for those of you who've really interested in Grigori Grabovoi's teachings but not too sure where to start, well, there's a bit of information on our website. I'll put those details, but we're going to have our next webinar seminar. So that's a dual webinar and seminar in the middle of November. So I think around the 16th and 17th. So please jump on and have a look what we'll be covering in there. And if something resonates within you, we'd love to have you join us and be part of our beautiful E=VS community. Until then, everybody, just look after you and lots of love, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.